Hello. It is April 28, 2024, and yes, this is an atypical POV for vlogs. I just finished my workout, so today I usually like to run or do cardio for the first 15-20 minutes, depending on how I feel. And then I usually do some kind of strength training. So today was arm day. My ass got handed to me for sure. I am doing a 75-day challenge, and today is day one. So how this all came about, well, there are a couple reasons. So yesterday was my birthday. I just turned 34, and I am doing all right health-wise, but I know I could stand to be better. I had a really great year last year in terms of fitness. I was pretty close to 200 pounds, and how that ended up happening was I just let myself fall into a rut when I started working in broadcasting and radio, and then eventually television. I did lose a little bit of weight when I went to television because I carried a lot of my own gear around. But as time went on, the job became a little bit more sedentary than I wanted to. And while I was out and about reporting, at the end, there was some training for a supervising producer just to step in the event the person who's usually in charge of that task was sick. And then I also got sick. So I ended up having, I can't remember anymore if it was pneumonia or bronchitis, but I had a couple of things that went down, and then eventually I had this big realization that it took a lot longer for me than usual to feel better. And so when I quit my broadcasting job in 2022, I made it a goal that the following year I was going to go back and do running. I used to do cross country and stuff when I was younger, and I wasn't the best, but the whole point with cross country is to really, challenge yourself and to make sure that you're progressively getting better each time. Just as I went through university, and then I went back to school for broadcasting, and then, had a very unhealthy relationship, and then got out of the unhealthy relationship, and then got into a relationship where I was a little too comfortable. My weight eventually ballooned to 200 pounds. And it's interesting because I can see it, I can totally see it. I could also see the bad eating habits. I had really, really bad acne. I cut a bunch of stuff out. I cut out dairy and whatnot. I'm starting up dairy again, but in very controlled amounts of dairy. And I try not to have more than 2 scoops of ice cream's worth of dairy a couple times a week, 3-4 times a week. I sometimes, if I'm feeling a little bit risque, I put a little bit of milk in my coffee, but otherwise I try to stay away from dairy as much as possible. Ironically, dairy is a lot cheaper now than it is for coconut milk and almond milk in this time that I'm filming this. So we are on a bit of a budget, or we're trying to save money. So we have gone back to milk for a little bit, but I don't really even touch it. John drinks a lot of milk because his body loves it. Mine doesn't. Last year, when I decided I was going to do the Vancouver Sun Run, I ended up I started training in October, formally training in October, and then the run was in April. So it was 6 months worth of training, running at least 3 times a week, strength training at least 3 times a week, and just walking when I couldn't work out. I ended up losing, so I started off at around 193, 194, and then I ended up down at 149. So do the math, that's a lot of weight, right? And John actually also lost weight. I think he lost about 80 pounds. So we used to joke that we lost one entire person combined. I finished the sun run, I achieved my goals, and then I was sort of working out on and off, doing a lot of HIIT classes. I went to F45. I love F45. There's one particular studio that I really loved going to, and I miss them so much, but it's an hour drive from where I live now, so it's not very convenient. Eventually I just got lazy, summer comes along, and then September starts back up, and I'm running maybe every other week, and then just sort of going out for walks, which is fine. When we moved out to where we live now in Surrey, so for those of you who don't know where Surrey, BC is, it's about a 45 to 50 minute drive from Vancouver, where the Olympics were held in 2010. And I moved out to Surrey, the move just got to me. It was really busy, it was really stressful. Exercise unfortunately fell to the wayside. When I started incorporating exercise, I wasn't really taking into account that I was eating more, and also generally during the winter, I do eat quite a bit more. I don't know what it is. It's funny because during the summer I don't eat as much. I'll eat a lot of frozen goods, particularly water-based goods, so freezies and shaved ice, and ice milk. I do like a good Dairy Queen Blizzard, but winter ends, I'm okay, we need to go back to training or whatever. and I was kind of running a little bit. Like I was sporadically running, but I was mostly going for long walks, and I noticed that I needed new runners, but I just was leaving it off. For those of you who don't know, if you run and you run frequently, you need to change your runners. It's so important for foot health, and just leg health, and just even just bone health, because if you've got like particular kind of runners, you want to make sure that they're like nice and cushioned, great arch support, and absorbing shock, and something that you can comfortably run in. So I was wearing Hoka's. I wore them into the ground basically. They're like done. But there were just excuses, and I was putting things off. And so finally I was like, okay, I need to start training. And this is where it gets really embarrassing. In previous videos, I've talked about us having a mouse issue in our apartment. I mean, it's just the way the cookie crumbles. We live near the woods, essentially. We live near a beautiful park, lots of nature. This is what I wanted. Every morning without fail at 7 a.m., the birds are up and at it. They don't need coffee. They're good to go. John being John, like, if he wants to fight you, he will fight you. And he was on a warpath to destroy these mice. He wanted them gone. And so unfortunately, because we weren't sure if they had set up something in like a gap in our kitchen area, or if they were coming from the walls, we had to put out traps. And spring traps are the most humane. I do not like killing animals. I have cried both times when we found the mice dead. To me, it's not fair, but if I could explain to them why they can't be in here, I would, and I'm sure they would be super respectful and like get the hell out. But unfortunately, that's just not how things work, and they were starting to eat food in here. So we had kept some flour, for instance, in a bottom cabinet, and they had started to eat at the flour, and they were trying to eat at some other things that didn't have food in it. I was checking a trap because I had thought I'd seen something, and I wanted to just see what the layout was. And there's a ledge where I basically hit my head and I tweaked my neck. And it wasn't just any sort of like, oh no, I like hit it. It was my head got caught and I heard a click, and I was freaking out. I'm going, oh my gosh. And so I was super embarrassed, and the next day I tried to go to the gym and I was sick. I was so dizzy. My head was just spinning. I tried to start off with, a typical like sprint, and I wanted to throw up. I could not, like, it was just the most awful feeling. So I had to stop. The last couple of weeks, I've basically been using the car to get everywhere. I haven't really been, or a bus, I haven't really been walking, because if I walk too long and too far, so anything over 5K, like, would make me sick. I decided to give it a test drive last week with a friend of mine on the day of the Sun Run. So while everybody was running the 10K, I was on the seawall in Vancouver. I was going for a walk, and I was just chatting with my friend. And so we actually turned back at the 3.5 mark. So that was about a 7K walk just on the seawall. So there was also some walking that we did after the fact. We pretty much walked everywhere that day. I think I hit like 15,000 steps or something. It was really good. All that being said, my body is changing. I'm getting older. I would like to have children, and I need to do a better job of just staying consistent. So enter my RMT, who is a fabulous human being. So before I went to see my current RMT, my last RMT was amazing, but she ghosted me. Like, I don't know what happened, and I love her so much, and I hope she's okay. So I had to find an RMT, and I have a really good so anybody who does any sort of body related work on me, RMT, personal trainer, I love my personal trainer. I haven't seen her in a while, but like, she still motivates me even though I don't see her. I still follow her on Instagram, and we're still cool, but it's harder for me to make those plans to go see her when she's like a whole city away, and it's very challenging for me to like fit in clients and then go to a PT training session, just because my schedule is typically like back to back to back to back. And I also need to make sure that I'm taking time for myself to rest. And I come across this lovely lady who, she passed the vibe check after reading about her online, lots of really good reviews. So I'm like, okay, I'll give her a try. And it was on the first try. She was amazing. She said all the right things. I really hate it when I hear that people don't want you to bulk up, because I've had RMTs before who are like, you shouldn't bulk up because blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I'm naturally like very muscular, the bottom half of my body. And I carry a lot of weight on my top half of my body. And so to get a bit leaner, you know, it's important for me to like work out my arms and definitely work on my core. And they're like, well, don't get too muscular because it's going to be really harder. It's going to be harder to work on you, which is a lie. She did a 30-minute on me and a 30-minute session on me. So like 30 minutes of like back, neck, and shoulders. Very nice introductory session. And the next day I was incredibly sore. I realized that there were a lot of muscles that I hadn't been working for a while. And when I had been focusing on my running journey, those got a little bit neglected. So I was very impressed with what she did. Before we ended our session, we talked a little bit about a challenge that she had done with her boyfriend, and it was called the 75-day challenge. And I was like, what's that? She's like, you get up and you work out every day for 75 days in a row, no ifs, ands, or buts, no quitting. You post to social media to stay accountable, and that's that. 15-20 minutes. It can be light, moderate, intense movement. As long as you are exercising, like, you're good. It seemed natural to me too, because I don't typically drink a lot. Like, I don't have a lot of alcohol. I don't smoke. So I'm just like, let's do it. Let's get her done. So yeah, today is day one. Over the next little bit, the content on this channel is going to be sort of a rotating situation of like working out, probably some gaming. We did buy stellar blades. So for those of you who are like, what the fuck is she doing right now? She's like sitting on her ass talking and like not playing anything. It's gonna be a mix of everything. So I'll go back to vlogging, probably some gaming, and of course this 75-day challenge, which if my calculations are correct, this will end in July, early July. So we'll see what happens. But in the interim, thanks so much for watching. And I know this was really chatty. I really wanted to talk about this and like get it out there, because part of this too is like, if you post it on social media, obviously there's accountability, right? And so for me, this was a big thing around accountability and making sure that, you know, I am going to do this shit, because now that I've said it, it's gotta happen. So I'm gonna take responsibility and make sure that I finish this challenge. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!